Hello, friends, and welcome into episode 14 for the Vol Club Confidential. That's part 2 of our Josh Heupel interview. I'm your host, Austin Price. Let's bring in Spire CEO James Clausen. James, you've had the counter on the website tallying up each and every Vol Club member. I think one of the coolest things, though, is kind of the state-by-state counter. Have we got to 50 states yet?
I think we're missing Vermont, but we got Hawaii, so we're close.
Vermont. Yeah. So any Vermont vols out there, I think there's actually a Vermont vol on VolQuest. Where you at, my guy? Like you got to get. I mean, it's as little as $5 a month.
Yeah, we got to get him.
Take me through just kind of how much fun it's been to kind of interact with these people in different states, because again, not everybody's living within 2 hours shot of campus, and some people just want that connection.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is whether it's the tailgates in the fall, the watch parties, the Zooms that we've done, is getting to know some of the same people, and they've come to a lot of our tailgates, or they've come to watch parties. And so we're starting to develop like a community of people that, whether they live in Boston or they live in California, we all have mutual interests. We all want to support the Vols, and, otherwise we may not ever come together, right? So it's been kind of cool, and I think a lot of new friendships have come out of it. So it's one aspect of it that we really didn't think about initially, but it's been kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, the Vol Network says from Mountain City to Memphis. The Volunteer Club says from Maine to Montana. When you kind of look at the last 6 to 8 months, the growth, the partnership with Tennessee, which is more prevalent now. How fascinating has it been to see kind of what that's looked like as everything's kind of evolved? Yeah,
so obviously a lot of unknowns. We didn't know a whole lot as we were getting into this, and over the last 6 to 8 months, it's changed a lot. We've been able to change with it, I think, in a good way. But from the partnership with Tennessee to again our members coming together, it's been pretty cool to watch. And I think I don't know what's in the future, but we're here for it. We're here to support the Vols and make it the best we can.
All right, now time for part 2 with head coach Josh Heupel. You walk in there, you meet with the team for the first time. What was that like? Because a bunch of those guys were hurting. They were thinking whether they need to leave or not. And some of them did leave. A bunch of them did leave. But you kind of found out quickly.
They were almost all gone before I got in the team room.
But you found out real quick kind of who you could get in the foxhole with.
Yeah, real quick. I think this is the group that chose to stay, right? They didn't choose me, but they chose the Power T, and I did too. And that was kind of the common bond between us. And that opening team meeting, I think, was really important just for them to gain insight and in some ways gain some trust. There was a lot of trust that had to be built in the coming months, but it was really important. And you walk in there, you don't recognize almost every face. There were a few that I had recruited, so recognized them as I was talking to them. Some I knew were on the roster, some I didn't, and so it was a great beginning spot.
So those first few months, like, you just had no juice in recruiting at all, and I just kept saying, look, guys, like, all these other schools are, it's not necessarily negative recruiting. They're just, I guess you could say it is, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, hey, they're presenting doubt, like Tennessee's going to get with an 8-year bowl ban, a 6-year bowl ban, and these parents, they don't know. Yeah. There's, do I listen to the coach that's potentially going at a program going on probation, or do I listen to the one that's not? So they're trying to figure things out. Then you get a little bit of momentum, which started with Elijah Herring, an in-state kid. Take me through that time. Was it kind of like, God, we just need something to fall our way? And then when it eventually did, then, started to steamroll a little bit.
Yeah, with all the uncertainty outside of our program, you had to create the buy-in from the guys that were inside of the program. Sure. And then you had to start letting people see that. And it's in the middle of COVID, so nobody was really around the program. And so you're truly trying to sell, who you are, what you're doing, and what the culture is, and how, you're changing things. while you're doing it over a Zoom call. Nobody gets a chance to see anything tangibly. And one of the hardest things that, myself and our staff went through, and, Elijah's recruitment, him buying into what we were doing was a huge part of us kind of springboarding our first class that we would eventually sign. And smart, tough, competitive, couldn't pick anybody better to be kind of the tip of the sword on that side of it. And that started to change a little bit of the narrative. Once we got through spring ball, we got into the summer, and people were able to start coming around and being around the facility. They could tell that, there were some things that had changed and were changing inside of Tennessee football.
You wasn't that first year, and you go 7-5 in the regular season. Just got some momentum, had some fun, won some games, scored some points. And it just felt like at that point, you got to that point where you actually were able to show tangible proof. And by that point, recruits could be on campus again and stuff. Kind of just take me through that first year. To me, will that be your kind of special group? But just because what they were, what they inherited, and kind of the fact they overachieved to get to where they were.
Yeah, these two classes will go down. And I'm talking about the senior classes will go down as a group that changed the future of Tennessee football, and in some ways saved it as we started to rebuild the cornerstone pieces to what it's going to be as we move forward. Guys that bought in to us immediately, and typically, there's a lot of pushback when you take over a program from a senior class that just lost a coach. They're skeptical about what's going to happen. They also see themselves, as only having another 10, 11 months inside of the program. It's hard sometimes to get them to buy in and become great leaders inside your program. In some ways, they got to sell, the head coach's vision, and that group of individuals did an unbelievable job of buying in and creating a culture within our locker room, and slowly but surely answering the questions about who and what we're going to be. And there's those questions at every stop. When you start your off-season program, when you start spring ball, when you start your summer training, when you start training camp, how do you handle a win? How do you handle failure during the season? There's all those things that are completely unknown. Nobody has anything to fall back on, and they did a great job of leading us. And you said one of the key things I think is our players and our staff, they do have fun. And that year we had fun competing together every single day on the practice field, but then competing with each other and for each other when we got to game day. And I think that's one of the things that reinvigorized our fan base too, is they saw the way that our players competed. They could tell that they were prepared, and they could tell that they loved one another.
That whole offseason, I just felt like, the fans had kind of, they had kind of rose to the occasion for 15 years. And finally they hit their breaking point where it's like, I'm taking a wait-and-see approach here. And it was a loss. But I think it was the Ole Miss game where, they were like, okay. Because you're coming off Missouri and South Carolina, 2 wins where you kind of, scored points and flipped some momentum. And then even in the loss at Ole Miss, you could just tell the fans were like, this is our guy. This is, all of a sudden they started to it was like, okay, we're back in again. Could you feel that?
Yeah, I felt like they started to truly believe that on any given Saturday, we were going to have a chance to win a football game. And it grew from, hope to belief inside of our fan base. And that's kind of what our team did, too. When we started the season, I think we were hoping to win on game day and then kind of moved to, believing that we were going to accomplish those things. And, I don't blame our fan base at all. It's been some tough years, but at the same time, you could tell the passion and the love that the fan base has for our players and for this program. And it's been a fun journey, kind of resurrecting and rebuilding it with them.
You get to this year, and you got Hendon coming back with all the expectations, and you get off to this phenomenal start. You finally Tennessee finally gets over the hump against Florida. Kind of take me through that game, and especially the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, let's not relive the last.
But my point though is did you learn sometimes we just can't take instead of trying to you just got to keep the foot down, because it felt like you're just trying to get that thing to triple zeros at that point.
I don't know if we try to keep the foot down and it doesn't work. I'm going to hear it on the flip side of that too.
True,
I think you're trying to balance all of it, and at the end of the day, it's about coming away with the win. That one got a lot tighter than we wanted to after the onside kick and everything that transpired. I felt like that was an awesome, unbelievable moment. Something that I still will remember forever. You know, that's an important game, and I knew that. You know, from an outsider's perspective, you know, Florida, Tennessee, those were the games that I grew up watching. They were the game in college football when that game arrived every Saturday, and to partake in that, to find a way to be up on the scoreboard and then eventually win it, not in the prettiest of fashions, but to find a way to win. You could feel the excitement, in some ways a sense of relief from some of the fans, to go win that game.
But were you aware that in the last 7 years that Florida had hit a 4th and 17 with under a minute to go from like 70 yards out to beat Tennessee? They hit a Hail Mary at the gun to beat Tennessee. All these things happened. So like when they got the onside kick, everybody that's a Vol fan's like, oh no, I've seen this again.
Yeah,
you know,
we need to keep Smokey from jumping on the alligator a little bit too early. Then I didn't know the entire history of the game.
So you had checker kneeling that night. And I know you thought that was super cool.
Man.
Do you know the origins of checker kneeling?
I do not.
So a game you coached in, 2014, Oklahoma, hosting Tennessee, they striped it. Tennessee fans thought, and the administration at the time thought that was so neat that they striped the Oklahoma, that the next year they came back and they checkered kneeling for Oklahoma here as a kind of a rebuttal. So that's kind of where checker kneeling started. When you
Let me just tell you, the checker kneeling, there's not a better look in college football inside the stadium. It's awesome to walk out to.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think it's pretty neat. When you look at the Alabama game, can you replicate that atmosphere? I mean, Florida was good, but Alabama was just next level.
Yeah, I mean, from you know what campus started to look like on Thursday, let alone on Friday when we went to the hotel, Vol Navy being in full force. I don't know how many boats were there. You know, 100 boats on Friday night already. Looked like they were having a pretty good time too. That's going to be on my bucket list whenever I'm done coaching, is to be at Vol Navy. And the drive to the stadium, Vol Walk, I mean, it's something I'm going to remember forever, the orange out. And you know, the energy inside the stadium was second to none, man. It was special.
And they handed you the cigar after the game. I mean, you're just face, like, it was just like, I don't even know, I don't think it had set in at that point, but you could just tell, man, you're like, this is cool.
Man, there were so many ups and downs.
Oh, the scoop and score.
Through the very end of the football game that you didn't get a chance to enjoy it until it was over. And, you know, I went and did the TV interview, and we always go to the band afterwards. I don't know what I was thinking, but I walked towards the band for about 5 to 10 yards and quickly realized that was the wrong way to go. I better be turning it around. But the walk back to the locker room with the fans swarming, the energy, you know, Bill got a cool video on the way back. He was back behind me and took video, and that's something that I'm going to have forever, man. It's a special moment, special celebration, and those things, you know, don't come along very often like that. That's a special moment for our fan base, for our players, and myself.
The moment I realized it was pretty special is when Peyton Manning came out of the Lower West Club and was down in the down on the field with everybody. But hey,
he had a good time in the locker room too.
But when you look at, you know, that game, was there a moment in time where you're like, that hurt? What, like when they picked off the pass there late and then they called the pass interference, did you immediately see the flag, or are you watching the run back?
No, I saw it unfold. I'm looking at the back judge back behind it, and I'm wondering if they're going to call it, and saw him reach, and there was a long delay, and I was like, son of a gun, they ain't going to call it. And it finally came out.
And you're like, like fans are just watching the ball. You're like looking at the back judge. You're like totally different kind of viewpoint that you're seeing a game in.
You see something unfold, and your eyes take you to the next part of what needs to happen. Absolutely.
Then you hit Jalen on the crossing pattern for the 5th touchdown. Can you? I mean, like, that's like in your wildest dreams, you can't imagine getting 5 touchdowns, much less against Alabama.
And none of our dreams did we think that, but that'll go down as an all-time great performance, man. Special day by Jalen, and really, obviously Hendon too. There were a lot of special things that Hendon did during the course of that game, and that performance by Jalen's one that'll go down in the history books.
Flip it back in reverse. Go back to that LSU game. Tennessee fans just took over Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
how neat was that second half? Just hearing the fans, seeing the lack of LSU fans. Took advantage of that 11 a.m. local kickoff. Breakfast on the Bayou turned down to the beatdown on the Bayou. How much did you did you take that in at all in the fourth quarter?
Not in the fourth quarter. Now, after the game, when it struck 0, and there was nothing but orange in the corner, and opportunity for our players to go over by our band with our fans and celebrate that, and then hearing them on the way out of the stadium. Special day in Baton Rouge.
Most special moment that you take with you is what? Is it just Alabama, or is there? After a win,
that's so hard. As a program, you talked about a lot of great moments.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying though is and again, we hope you coach. I hope you coach it forever because you have morning practices, and my kids are in school, and that's phenomenal for me. I keep telling you that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. But when you look back 30 years from now, is there a moment in season 1 or season 2? It could be season 1. It doesn't have to be this past year where you had more success. Is there a moment where you're like, that's one of those memories that will just jog to me?
I think there's been a lot of checkpoints along the way, and you talked a lot about them, about a lot of them in this 22 season that we had. I think one of the big, milestones for us as a program was going back to 21, being on the road, ranked Kentucky team. Us taking another step in how we prepared and how we competed, being able to fight through the end of the ball game. Offense, defense, special teams, the way defense finished that ball game, giving up a long conversion and then, going 4 straight plays and forcing the end of the football game in the right scoreboard for us. All of those moments are things that, man, I'm never going to forget, and something that as I look back on, these 2 classes of seniors that have left our program, the footprint and what they've, left behind them.
You look at 23 and, some key pieces on offense you have to replace. Darnell, I don't know if they get bigger than that. Yeah. That's not named a quarterback. Hendon, obviously, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. But I think you're always going to be able to score points. It just feels like the next evolution of the program happens on the other side of the ball. That the defense, which took, I think, a big step from one year to the next, has a chance to take an even bigger step heading into year 3.
Yeah, there's really good players on both sides of the line of scrimmage that we're losing. That's a great thing and the tough thing about college football. A quarter of your roster you got to turn over every single year, and it comes a great opportunity. And you saw some young guys take advantage of that in the bowl game. They got an opportunity to play and played at a really high level. There's no doubt that we'll play elite defense here, and we're on a journey to get there as fast as we can. I love what we're doing and who we're doing it with. We need to take another step, as a program, and we can take another step on the defense side of the ball and anticipate us doing that.
How would you rate yourself as a recruiter 5 years ago versus now? Like you know what I'm saying? Like how much have you evolved in that realm? Because you talk about doing it 365 in this league. You didn't really have to do that at Central Florida. It's just you're recruiting a different kind of kid.
It is.
Just like Alex is recruiting a different kind of kid at South Florida now than you recruited at Tennessee. So have you morphed as a recruiter? Because it felt like the guy that walked in here in 21 to me, and again, I'm cover this on a daily basis, so I can kind of speak to it a little bit. It felt like your growth was pretty substantial from year 1 to year 2, and you weren't bad in year 1, but it seemed like you took Arian Carter, man, I want that kid, and you went after him. Like you kind of pinpointed and was like, boom, that's my guy, and you went after him.
Well, I just think everywhere you're at, it's going to be different, and it's different because of the program, its reach, the things are going to be different regionally, what you're competing against, and how you got to go get players and sell your program and what you're doing. And so have I grown? Yeah, absolutely. We grow in all areas, but we've certainly grown on the recruiting side of it too, and we've learned lessons inside of our footprint. How do we be more intentional? How do we do a better job selling the product that we have and making sure that we're getting the right kid too that's going to fit the culture of what we're trying to build.
I asked you when you got introduced about every coach steps up here and they talk about putting the fence around the state and building a wall around the state and all this stuff. Right. And that's a bit far-fetched because, kids are going to leave. I mean, but at the same time, you making the state a priority, and you've done that and you continue to do that. What kind of reception have you seen from the in-state kids when you first got here, when you're inheriting all the stuff that's unknown, to now coming off 11 wins? Is it a different feel?
Yeah, relationships about communication, relationship building, and being consistent in that. And that's with, people have their boots on the ground, high school coaches. It's with the recruit and his family. I think those things are so important. The longer we've been here, there's a lot more to be able to substantially sell. And it's not just about the future. You're able to point to some of the things that you've already done inside of your program to understand the trajectory of where we're going. Recruiting this state the right way is vitally important to the success of Tennessee. And we've been intentional, the coaches, the amount of coaches that we put inside of the state, our ability to go connect. I've tried to be intentional, making sure that I'm out inside of the state when, the head coach is able to be out on the road, and make sure that, we're doing a great job of evaluating guys. Doesn't mean we're going to take every guy. Doesn't mean that every young man's going to choose us either, but you recruit them the right way. More times than not, you're going to be able to win that.
All right, we're going to take some social media questions. This from Lane_VFL. Coach, what's on your game day music playlist? Do you have a playlist?
I don't have a playlist, but I'm typically going to listen to some Jay-Z radio, Mumford & Sons too. So a weird combination right there, I know.
Not a country music guy?
Not on game day.
Not on game day. What about just
when I'm riding down the car, riding to the office?
So it's just
home,
what gets you in the mood for certain things.
Absolutely.
What did you listen when you were a player? Same type stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
This one from Tyler Wright, 1865. Favorite recruiting story? It doesn't have to be from here. It can be from anywhere.
Man, recruiting story.
To put it in context, BJ told the one about a couple weeks ago that when he was at Texas, a kid, he did this whole 45-minute deal. Kid disappears, goes into his bedroom. Well, BJ didn't understand that there was a kid, or actually a reporter in the bedroom that was verifying everything that BJ had been saying in this meeting. And of course it checked out. BJ was telling the truth, and the kid comes down. He ends up signing with Texas, flips from A&M to Texas. So he said, now every time I walk into a kid's house, I go into his bedroom to check check to see who's there.
Check what's going on. That's wild. I can see that happening. Something similar happened to me this year, actually. We thought we were getting pretty close to closing on a guy. Thought the words were ready to come out of his mouth. All of a sudden, he disappeared into his bedroom for about 15, 20 minutes, and it went a little cold on us, but we got positive word after we had left the house.
There we go. This from Kenny Clayton. What would you say to fans who are considering but on the fence about joining the volunteer club?
Man, I think the volunteer club's vitally important to what we're doing inside of our program, and I say that meaning one of the great things here is the opportunity that players have for personal and professional development. This is a great city to live in, and in today's landscape, I think it's important that we provide the best resources and best opportunities that we can for any of our players. Final
one, this from Drew Hashimura. What are the biggest challenges that need to be addressed this offseason?
There's a bunch. Individually, we got to grow, and then collectively too. For us, you can easily start just the guys that are gone from our program, guys that have graduated or are entering the draft. Those are opportunities for sure that are open. We got to develop the players at that. Become a cohesive group. You look at offensively, 2 wide receivers that we got to replace. The continuity, quarterback position, continue to develop the starter, but also the guys behind them. And, defensively, got a lot of guys returning in the front 7, but the secondary, we got to shore some things up. We got competition there. We got to stay healthy through spring and training camp. I think looking back on a year ago, some of the injuries that we had hurt those guys in their development, and that showed up. And just our ability to be consistent in the way that we played during the course of the season. If we can, keep those guys healthy, have great practices, then we can develop those guys.
All right, we're going to go more rapid fire here. Do your kids play sports? If not, and if so, which ones?
Absolutely. Golf for my daughter. She flipped the switch to golfing this year. She can stroke it off the tee box. And then my son is all ball, basketball, baseball, football, whatever he's got in his hand is what he wants to be.
When you play your son in basketball, how competitive are you, Hype?
Listen, he has not beaten me. That's a sore spot with my wife a little bit, but
make him earn it.
That's right. Hey, let me tell you.
But are you out there like blocking his shots, or do you just play hard D? Like, there's a difference between like I always said, Jawan Jennings was so competitive.
He's 12. He can take one getting blocked. You know what I mean? But he's always going to try me at my worst moments too. He sees a sign of weakness. He's going to try to take advantage of it. What
game lives on in your memory the most, as player or coach?
Man,
what sticks with you?
I don't know. I think the Orange Bowl. Just the culmination of this season.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Holy cow! I really don't have an answer for that one. I cannot imagine doing anything else at this point.
Working with me and Hubs at VolQuest.
No chance. No chance. I can tell you what I'm not going to be doing if I'm not coaching.
Well, we'll have you cover the basketball team, you and Rob and Grant. Best advice someone has given you?
When I got here, be you. Don't try to be something else. Don't try to conform to anything.
I agree with that.
Be you, and I think that's important for your players, but for your fan base too.
Biggest lesson you've learned from one of your athletes is what?
Holy cow, there's been a bunch of them. How to communicate, how to show them that you care, that you love them, how to help them grow. I think, just how you interact with them, I think is one of the things that I've taken away.
When you were in Orlando, I would imagine if you went out to eat, nobody really paid that much attention. They notice you here.
They do. Much
like they probably did in Norman, Oklahoma. What do you like that? Do you like that interaction?
It's just all part of it. I'll tell you what, here, when I'm by myself or with my wife, people will come up to you. People recognize you and acknowledge you. And I love getting a chance to meet fans. I think one of the unique things here is when I'm with my kids, they let me be a dad. They still may acknowledge you, but they don't interrupt you. And that's really unique here. I've been other places where that's not the case. And, I'm not I don't get a chance to be a dad with my kids out in the public very often, but I love the fact that they let me be a dad when I'm here.
One former Vol that you've not met yet that you would like to meet?
Willie Gault.
Nice. Very nice. If you could have dinner with three people dead or alive, who would it be?
Martin Luther King, JFK, the third one, I don't know, Brent Hubbs.
I like that. He'll bring you some tomatoes. Best Tennessee tradition is what? Is it the Vol Walk or is it the tee?
Ooh, man, that's so tough. Both are so unique in college football. I was a skeptic of the Vol Walk. Everybody talked about how great it was.
I was most disappointed they pulled you into the gates at the Orange Bowl. Because, buddy, you should see the area. Go back and look at 2014 Tax Slayer Bowl. Yeah. The amount of people at the bowl game was silly. And that's why I was like, I can't believe they're going to pull them through the gates. But keep going.
The first Vol Walk that I went to, I did not understand what it would be like. And there's a lot of schools that have a walk. There's nothing like it in college sports.
Well, the good news for you is that thing is really scaled back from the standpoint of they keep them back. I'll never forget. I was a young kid when Coach Fulmer got let go in 2008, and at that point I'm shooting highlights. So I'm right in front of Phillip the whole way down the Vol Walk, and I've got somebody grabbing a hold of my belt to make sure I don't fall. And the amount of people that were literally shoulder to shoulder with me as I'm going down backwards was wild. And that's how it was for a long time. But then COVID happened, and they pushed everybody back. So you do get the benefit of a little bit of a buffer. There was no buffer before COVID. It was right on top of you. You're a big uniform guy. What's your favorite combination? I know you let the players decide, but if coach is picking,
we actually do let the players decide.
If you got to pick a game, are you going just orange on white, or do you like white on white?
I love the traditional uniforms, as good as it gets. I think the dark mode jerseys this year with the helmet combination, pretty special.
We'll get you out the door on this one. If you could give advice to your younger self knowing what you know now, what would it be?
As a young coach, man, as a coach?
Either one.
Well, as a young person, man, find your passion. And within that, you're going to find your purpose. And I think that's really important that you find both of those things. And as I've gone through my coaching career, I've realized what my purpose is.
It's great advice. Great look into what makes this man tick. Tennessee spring practice will start up next month with those morning practices. I love those. Coach Heupel, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you joining us on Ball Club Confidential.
Appreciate it. Go Big Orange.